AI, as it is deployed in more and more applications, is very likely to change the job market very significantly. The world is going to change rapidly. People will have to reskill themselves. If they are very specialized in one thing, it's going to be more difficult for them. It was difficult for us to accept that what we were doing could eventually destroy humanity. It's very difficult psychologically to really accept that your work could be dangerous. But once you understand how it can go wrong, you have a responsibility to speak up.
Maybe just like Oppenheimer.
Exactly.
Like the time he says, I became death, the destroyer of the world. That's really a big concern for maybe all the constructors.
大家好，我是林毅。这次呢，我收到央视对话栏目和 B 站的邀请。今天呢，咱们有个特宝贵的机会，就是呢，来到北京和《深度学习》这本书的作者之一Bengio一起聊聊人工智能产业相关的问题。这次来中国呢，主要是讨论人工智能安全的话题。我呢也准备了一些和产业技术发展相关的问题。我现在呢心里真的特兴奋，特期待呢一会儿的交流。咱们一会儿呢就一起听听人家顶级专家的观点。
My name is Yi, and I have a master specialization in machine learning. So I have definitely read the great book, Deep Learning. I really appreciate this conversation opportunity, and you are like a walking legend to me. First question, I'd like to start with your journey here in Beijing. So what are you doing here, and what are you hoping to achieve here?
We have a meeting to favor the dialogue between scientists in the West and scientists in China. And this is the second edition. We had another one in October. So this is very important. We need the main powers of AI in the world to discuss the potential risks of AI. So this is a dialogue focusing on AI safety. How do we make sure that in the future, AI will not harm humans, will not have negative consequences for society?
Last May, you've signed a statement on AI safety issues, and you have testified in front of the US Senate regarding this same issue. Currently, AI might just be some unreliable chatbots making stupid mistakes. So why should we be so concerned about AI safety in such an early stage?
We shouldn't be concerned about the current AI. The problem is where we're going in maybe a few years, maybe 10, maybe 20. We don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty about the rate of progress, but there's an acceleration of the advances. And so if we project ourselves when we reach AI that is smarter than humans, which is very likely, there's no reason it couldn't happen. This is something that will be a game changer with both potentially huge benefits and great dangers for humanity. And that is why I've been involved in these discussions and talking about the issues and also doing research on AI safety.
Why is artificial general intelligence so intimidating?
What if you want to train an entity that is more powerful than you, like train a grizzly bear? We need to make sure it is not going to attack humans. And the problem is right now, we don't know how to design an AI system that will be for sure not going to turn against humans. So in the case of the grizzly bear, we might think of putting a cage to make sure it stays where it is and it doesn't harm people. But we don't know how to build a safe cage. So when it gets sufficiently smart, sufficiently powerful, it can escape the cage unless we know the cage is perfect. So this is a major scientific challenge that we need to figure out before we get to the grizzly bear.
Geoffrey Hinton has expressed regrets on his past work. So from your perspective, what might be his reason? And actually, have you ever shared similar thoughts?
Jeff and I didn't see it coming, the rapid advances in AI. We did not expect ChatGPT. We did not expect to have AI systems that master language so quickly. We thought that this would be, many decades in the future, and that we could have lots of benefits of AI, much before we get there. And I think also it was difficult for us to accept that what we were doing could eventually destroy humanity. It's very difficult psychologically to really accept that your work could be dangerous. But once you understand how it can go wrong, I think you have a responsibility to speak up.
Maybe just like Oppenheimer.
Exactly.
Like the time he says, I became death, the destroyer of the world. Yeah, that's really a big concern for maybe all the constructors. I suppose AI safety might be even more urgent after this technology is integrated into our daily life. Like when the technology is applied in autonomous bus driving and maybe in delivering oxygen in hospitals. Do we need to further revise our policies and regulations in that kind of scenarios?
First of all, there are a lot of applications of AI that are not dangerous because we can develop AI with a very narrow function that's specialized maybe to a medical task, for example, and cannot become really dangerous because it doesn't understand humans, it doesn't understand society, it is not autonomous. So there are many useful things we can do with AI in society. That being said, one possible thing to keep in mind is if we have lots and lots of small AI in society and we lose control of a powerful AI system, if that AI is able to hack all the other small AI everywhere, then it gets a lot of control in all of our infrastructure, and that could be dangerous. So we still have to be careful. Also, some specialized AI systems could be dangerous because they might help, for example, with designing dangerous weapons, like biological weapons,
Yes.
or specialized to cybersecurity. So they might not be knowing everything, but if they know enough in a domain that can become weaponized to attack humans, either on the queries from humans with malicious goals, or if we lose control of the AI system.
I remember you saying that the danger of AI is in the humans themselves, not in the technology. Maybe
yes,
itself.
we are building machines that could be dangerous. We don't understand those machines sufficiently, but we compete with each other. Companies compete with each other. Countries compete with each other. We have, greed. We have ambition, and sometimes we're a bit foolish and not wise. And so long as that lack of wisdom doesn't have, great catastrophic consequences in normal life, it's okay. But when we start playing with entities potentially smarter than us, that could have really, existential effects on humanity, and we need to change the way we think about the problem.
You actually helped establish the concept of neural networks, the training mechanism, and guide network for content generation. From perceptrons to today's hot topic, large language models, what are the fundamental changes that is shifting this field so fast, so abruptly?
There's probably a lot of technical advances that have happened, improvements in the way we design and train these neural networks. In fact, a lot of these improvements are inspired by human brains and human cognition. But of course, maybe the factor that had a huge effect is computational resources and the amount of data which we have now and we didn't have 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the amount of computational resources that we're using right now has been growing exponentially very, very fast in the last few decades. And it's going to continue for some time.
We are seeing a lot of discussions on computational power on the scaling law. Like in the article, The Bitter Lesson, Richard Sutton, he even claims that the only way to push this technology forward is through increasing computational power. Is there other factor that you think is required to maybe push this technology forward? Or do we just need more computational power?
I don't think anybody really knows. Right now, we can observe some gaps between the state of the art in AI and human cognitive abilities. For example, reasoning in those systems like GPT-4 is not as good as humans, not even as good as a 10-year-old. So there may be some fundamental pieces missing, but we shouldn't assume that's the case. I didn't think that mastering language, like we do now with large language models, could be done just by scaling up. But yes, this is where we are. And there has been improvements in reasoning, for example, between GPT 3.5 and GPT 4 in the last two versions. If I had to make a bet, I think we're missing some aspects of the algorithms, and this is the kind of research I'm doing, but I wouldn't bet the future of humanity on it. And maybe the people who think it's just scaling are right. I don't know.
No matter the key factor, safety first.
Exactly.
AI is closely related to robotics, especially humanoid robots. With the revolution of large language model recently, industry experts are claiming that the year 2023 to be the year of robots awakening. But in fact, what we actually see, we only see those robots dancing in maybe commercial videos. So how far do you think humanoid robots are from actually entering our daily life?
It's difficult to say, but what we can say for sure is that the progress in robotics with actual physical control of motor control has not been progressing as fast as high-level cognition like language, but also vision. And there may be several reasons for this. One possible reason is simply scale. We don't have as much data to train those robots. Also, it has to be interactive, which is more complicated. But we will figure it out. Maybe later. It's hard to say. But we see some progress. So we need to prepare also for a world where not just the white collars lose their job, but also the blue collars.
Yeah. It's so interesting that the progress happens in the creative side first instead of the motor side, like the basic functions.
But I think there's a number of reasons for this. One is, as I said, we have access to so much data on the internet that is in a form of text. We don't have the equivalent for robotics. The other is that language is already a very compact and rich representation of information. Whereas in the case of robotics, you have to deal with low-level signals, the individual signals that control each of the limbs of the robot. And maybe the sorts of algorithms that are needed are different.
With the evolution of AI technology, what kind of skills do you think would be the most worthwhile to cultivate for the next generation?
Well, that's an interesting question. AI, as it is deployed in more and more applications, is very likely to change the job market very significantly. People make projections, there will be, more automation here or there, but really we don't know. So maybe the most important skill is general knowledge and adaptability and ability to learn quickly new things. Because the world is going to change rapidly, and people will have to retrain, reskill themselves. If they are very specialized in one thing, then it's going to be more difficult for them. I would also add that there are probably jobs that we don't want to replace with machines. Everything where the human factor, human interaction, human emotional interaction is important. If you go to the hospital and you're sick, you'd like a human to hold your hand.
Yes.
If you go to see a psychologist, you'd like to have a human to talk to. You'd like your baby to be taken care of by real humans, not robots.
If I go to hospital, I need a warm hand.
Exactly.
And if I go to psychologist, I want sympathy, empathy.
Exactly.
Could you share your thoughts on the AI research going on here in China? And what are the advantages in this country? And what might be the problems here?
Well, I don't know enough, but what I've seen is amazing progress in the scientific strength of Chinese researchers in AI over the last decade. In North America, in my university, for example, the number of Chinese graduate students has been climbing for a long time, and Chinese researchers are publishing a large fraction of the machine learning papers. So this is pretty amazing as a rise of AI power. I don't know what is missing. Maybe maturation of the research community and thinking about long-term questions. I think there is more focus on immediate applications, for example, and not so much on the bigger questions of what's missing, safety, even the questions of understanding philosophical questions that relate to human intelligence and so on. So, but I believe this will naturally come with more time.
So what's your expectation for this country, for China, to contribute to to solving the AI safety problems?
I think China has a very important role to play in global AI safety. First of all, China is one of the main AI powers in the world. And the existential risk due to super intelligent AI, AGI, is not something that's just a problem for one country. If there is a loose AGI that we lost control and it becomes dangerous for humanity, it doesn't matter in which country it happens, it's going to affect every human on the planet. So we are all in the same boat, first of all. Second, in order to minimize the risks due to these kinds of out-of-control AI systems in the future, all the countries need to work together, and especially the countries that have the expertise to build the strongest, most advanced AI systems. One of the things we're discussing at this workshop is how scientists and eventually governments of different countries can collaborate on AI safety. I think that if we want to minimize the risks in the future due to AGI, we need a multilateral organization of the work on AGI so that we make sure everywhere in the world we reduce the risks, we follow the proper protocols We share research on how to make AI safe. And we build governance systems such that the benefits of AI and the control to make sure nothing bad happens is going to be shared across many countries. This is not something that any single country, even the United States, can do alone. It is something that we all need each other to do properly.
With such a powerful tool, it's always a problem, global problem. It's the problem of humanity, not the problem of a single country.
Exactly. Part of the problem is humans are not one mind taking a rational decision. Humans are many individuals, many companies, many countries competing with each other. And that creates a dynamic that can be dangerous. We may be cutting corners on safety. So that is why it is so important that we coordinate globally at the international level to control those risks, minimize them, and I think it's also important at an economic level to make sure that all the good that can come out of AI is going to be shared for everyone on this planet.
Do you think the commercial companies are competing for artificial general intelligence responsibly?
Not enough. But in a way, it is natural. They have to compete with the others in order to survive. And that is why the role of government is so important. Because if one company was spending more money on safety to protect the public, that means they spend less money on capability and making the AI do its job. So that will give an advantage to the companies that are cutting corners, the companies that are taking risks. Because safety is like a shared resource. It's like the air we breathe with pollution. Mm-hmm. The only way to get out of this tragedy of the commons is to have governments put rules that level the playing field, make sure every company has to report what they're doing with these very large systems, so governments can track what the systems are, and also that the companies demonstrate to the government that their systems are safe. That will create an incentive for companies to work more on safety. Because right now there are no rules, at least in most countries. It's only starting, the different countries are starting to put legislation. And there isn't enough pressure on companies to focus on safety, especially as we approach AGI in the coming years or decade. This becomes really important.
So companies, they just naturally compete for the best, and that's where maybe the governance should step in. And as you said, it's safety is our common resource. It's like air. Exactly. It's like global environment. Mm-hmm. We are on the same boat. So Eastern and Western have pretty different philosophies, like Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism. They put a lot of focus on balancing, on pursuing the harmony between human and nature. How could we utilize this variety in cultures to maybe solve this problem of safe development of artificial intelligence?
That's a good question, but I would answer more broadly that when we take very consequential decisions, for example, how to manage the risks of AGI, we cannot afford to make mistakes. And if we have experts from different cultures, different countries around the table, there is less chance that we ignore an important point of view about something that could be bad for humans. Having that diversity of views is going to help reduce the risks. That is one reason why we want, in my opinion, to go towards multilateral governance. In other words, multiple countries, as many as possible, but maybe through the UN, I don't know, to agree together about what we should do with the power of AI and how we should manage it to protect the populations. These are very important questions, and we shouldn't leave it to one CEO or one government to decide.
Yeah, maybe that's when we could try more perspectives and think together to solve this global problem.
Yeah.
That's all my questions. And you're indeed a walking legend, and I really appreciate this time. It's a great time. AI safety is important, and I really appreciate that you are doing work to help secure it.
Thank you.
对我来说呢，优树啊真的是行走的传奇。人家呢不仅猛推了一把人工智能这个研究领域，而且对接下来的发展呢也特别的上心。聊的时候呢，我就问到，就是说这种感觉是不是就和奥本海默当年遥相呼应？优树啊就说呢，是的。他反复强调，人工智能的安全呢不是某一个国家的事儿，而是像空气、环境这样和每个国家和整个人类社会息息相关的问题。在这个议题面前，我们呢就是人类命运共同体，议题重大，我们呢唯有协作。行，今天呢这个视频就到这儿了。后面呢，央视的对话栏目围绕这个议题还会做一个更全面、更有深度的讨论。今年呢，也会非常的关注人工智能这个领域。咱们呢，就央视的节目见了。
没关系，我愿安安静静地坐在马路旁。夏天也好，冬天也好，总是会有人在歌唱。